Teen Speak. Empowering today's youth. Teen Speak explores the unique strategies and stories of amazing young people from around the globe who are pushing boundaries, overcoming adversity, and achieving greatness. Your hosts, Keith Senzer and Antoine Thompson, are youth empowerment and leadership coaches that have dedicated themselves to helping teens find their true north by educating, supporting, and inspiring them. Tune in to Teen Speak for the real-life experiences of extraordinary individuals who are motivating others to be their best selves.
Welcome to Teen Speak, a podcast all about empowering today's youth. I'm Antoine Thompson, or I'm better known as Coach T, and I am super excited to be on this podcast and hosting it along with.
Hey everybody, my name is Keith Senzer. I am a youth empowerment and leadership coach. I'm based here in New York, but I work all around the country, and I work on helping teens find their true north and live their authentic selves so we can heal this world.
And Keith and I are two peas in a pod, or you can say brothers from another mother, if you will, because we were connected by a mutual friend of ours a while back, and we just hit it off right off the bat. And he reached out and said, hey, Coach, let's do a podcast together, because we both do the same thing, working with young people, trying to make them be the best versions of themselves. And there was no hesitation. Having my own podcast that I have, Developing Tomorrow's Leaders, it also aligns with what we're doing. And this podcast is all about the voice of young people and allowing them to share their experiences, their challenges and obstacles in their lives, and how they overcome them. And Keith and I have young people that we work with and are working with that are going to be coming on and being guests. And Keith, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about what you see us doing with this podcast.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, honored and pleasure to be doing this with you, my friend. So
likewise.
Changing lives together. There's nothing better than that.
You got that right.
I feel that there's so many teens out there that have a voice, and I think generationally, as these generations change, I think these younger people are much more vocal than we ever were at our age, and are much more in tune because of social media and access to information that, opinions that we formed based on our belief systems that we were raised with from our parents. They're developing belief systems based on real things going on in the world, what they see going on, what they like, what they don't like, and they have a voice and they use it. And just as an example, right? Not to get political, because we don't do anything political on this podcast, but just looking at what happened in the last election, a lot of that happened because young people went out and voted. So they have a voice, and when they use their voice, things do happen. And I think it's really important that we learn to listen to them and hear what they have to say, because they are the future, and they're the ones that are going to be leading us where we're going to go, right? In this country, in the world. So I think it's really important to listen to what they have to say. And I also think that being mental health is a huge problem right now in this country, one of the biggest pandemics we're facing. Having a place for other teens to come out and speak about their struggle and what they did to overcome it, and strategies they used to move through it and get to where they are today, I think just gives permission for other teens to speak about it as well and use those similar strategies to help themselves. So, this is a safe space for teens to just share their experiences, their viewpoints, and what they want to see and what they want to do, and have a voice. And, we're here to just help amplify that voice and hopefully create positive change in the world.
Amen, my brother. Amen to that. And I think the other thing that's really important to share too is that we really encourage parents to listen to this podcast as well, because what you may discover is something that your child may be going through or may be trying to say to you based on what you hear from the guests that we have on this podcast. Because I can assure you, the young people that Keith has worked with and is working with and currently working with, as well as myself, we're discovering every day about new challenges that kids before wouldn't really talk about, but knowing that they have an environment and a space in which their voices matter, it changes the way they think, and it also changes the outlook of their lives if they know that they're not being judged, number one, and number two, that they'll be listened to and that their voices do matter. So I definitely encourage parents to listen to this as well, and also to share it with your kids. And it'll be a great listening piece for kids when they find out that there are other young people out there that have been or are going through the same thing that you may be going through or have been going through.
Yeah. And I think we'll be able to come up with some great strategies too for parents. One of the conversations I have all the time with parents when they're struggling with their kid is like, you got to talk to them, not at them, right? When you talk at them, they just shut down, right? Learning to talk to them. And I think that's hard for some parents because, listen, as a parent myself, right? I have anxiety when my kids make decisions that I don't agree with, right? Or I'm thinking, hey, that's probably not the best choice, right? And I struggle with like interfering or just letting them do it, right? And failing a little bit. But also, when I do talk to them about it, I really try to engage them in the conversation, make them part of the solution or part of the plan, as opposed to me dictating the plan. So I think there'll be a lot of little nuggets that will come out from talking with some of these teens about when they share experiences and like, hey, you know what, this works for me, this didn't work for me. So I think there's a lot of things parents can pick up as well. And, like I said, I'm a parent and I get it. Like I understand the anxiety and the stress, but it's so important when we talk to these kids, talk about some of their failures, right? Because truth is, right, to have a growth mindset, you have to fail, right? You got to fail to grow. And so if we're always protecting our kids and we're always trying to keep them from harm, they don't grow and they don't learn, they don't build resiliency, and it actually hurts them down the road. And, I'm so, just because you brought it up, I get so angry when I hear people aging ourselves now, our age talking about, oh, this generation, they're weak. I'm like, no, they're really not. Yeah. There's weak people in every generation, but this generation is not weak just because they want to feel loved and welcomed and they want to understand, like, I'm entitled to feel this way, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. Like, I think they're very resilient. There's always that exception, but I hear that all the time. It makes me crazy when people talk about this generation, they're weak and they're not resilient. I'm like, no, I actually think they're really resilient.
They're resilient. Yeah.
I think
I was going to jump in there, Keith, if I could, because I think you and I are both on the same page here, because my skin crawls when I hear that, because I think the other part of that, the other end of that spectrum is adults are missing the big piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, and that is these young people have something to offer us, to teach us about the world that they're living in, so we can catch up to them, because there are certain things in their lives that we are way behind. You and I both would struggle with certain aspects of it, like technology, for instance. We are behind the 8 ball. They're ahead of us. But this is I can imagine this being a struggle for young people. Like, hey, I know that, to your point about talking at them instead of talking to them. It's the same thing with education. I think a lot of kids are being taught at, as far as being taught, as opposed to being spoken to in order to be able to get feedback. So I think there's an opportunity for us as adults to learn from this next generation. They're trying to speak to us if we would just stop and listen and actually learn, because I know I do it and I know you do it. And that's what makes us better coaches, is because we listen and we're gaining from them. So the next young person that we work with, we are better equipped to help them with any struggles or challenges that they may be going through.
Absolutely. No, 100% right.
Yeah.
Different times, different social media has changed everything. It really has. Access to information, it has changed the whole narrative. And it's when these kids speak up or they have something to say, as adults, we want to say, I got 30, 40 years on you, it's like, but the truth is they have access to the same information we had. I didn't have access to the information my parents had access to. So I didn't know what was going on. And it's a very, very, and listen, it creates sometimes, there's a lot of families where, mom and dad think one way and the kids think a different way. I have it with one of my kids. I love him to death, but he is a nonconformist. It's like, he's very righteous about things. If you do the wrong thing, he will not back down. Like he needs to let you know that is wrong, and there's times where I'm like, oh my God, you don't have to be like that. But then when I step back, I'm like, I have a lot of respect for that. Like, you're willing to stand up for what you believe in, and you're not going to let somebody just get away with something without letting them know what they did was wrong. So I struggle with that as a parent. Right. And I think a lot of us in our generation, watching these kids grow up and having these opinions and thought processes and the way they view the world, we really can learn from them. Not just technology, just learning from them about how they feel about things. And I think there's a lot of solutions to a lot of problems that they have that we're just not listening, so we don't see the solution.
Well, you tapped on something that's really important too, and that part about, well, I have 20, 30, 40 years experience. Well, when kids hear that, they're tuning you out, because guess what? That was 30, 40 years ago.
Mhm.
We're living in the here and now, and things are not the same as they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. So let's catch up and let's close the gap, the communication gap. And I think that's a big part of what we're talking about too is, closing communication gap. How can we connect with kids? And I think what's really important, going back to my point about why I think it's important for parents to listen, it's one thing for you and I to spend all this time with a lot of young people, helping them in their personal growth and development, but it does no good if the parents don't understand how their kids are growing in their personal growth and development stages, and understanding, hey, guess what? We're spending time teaching about relationships, which I think is a big part of it, communication and relationships. And we're talking about the importance of relationships and communication, but then they get home and nothing's changed there, but yet they prepared themselves to improve their relationships and communication. So I think it's inherent upon parents to understand that when you have your kids working with a youth development coaches like ourselves, like Keith and myself, understand that you need to understand what they're learning so that you can grow with them. And now those challenges that they're going through are minimized because now they understand more about how they can become a better person. And then you understand a little bit more about your child. And going back to your point about your son, being, if this is what he believes in, it's what he believes in, you got to respect that because there's something in that, because that's a great trait to have later. Think about later in life. A lot of kids are standing their ground because they truly believe in something. And I think this is something that's really important to them and something that we have to understand and respect.
Absolutely. And you got me thinking too about just what we learn from them, right? One thing that's great, and I think this is what parents and teens alike are going to benefit. There's always that, the definition of insanity, right? Like doing the same thing over and
Same
over.
thing over and over, expecting different results. Yeah.
Right? Teaching the teens, but also teaching the parents. Like if you're talking to your teen this way, or you're responding to your teen this way, and they keep responding back the same way, and it's not the response you want, like that's not going to change. You need to change the way you are interacting with your teen. And the same with a teen. Like when you're asking mom and dad for something and you're not getting what you want, maybe it's how you're asking. Maybe you need to approach it differently, right? Like so much about this is just effective communication and learning how to communicate with each other. And really, like I'm sure we'll talk a lot about this, like vulnerability, right? Tapping into our both as parents and as teens, and being, like I always, I always tell my kids when I'm feeling anxious or stressed, about a particular thing, I'll tell them, listen, I'm not going to be in a good mood today. I have a lot going on. I'm very stressed. I'm very anxious. I just need you to know, like I get anxiety too sometimes. So today's one of those days where I'm really feeling anxious, and I just need to let you guys know that. So like when you're interacting with me, just be cognizant of that and have some empathy for me, because that way we'll have a good interaction, and vice versa. And listen, I know a lot of parents, I'm not telling my kids that, but the truth is, when we can model that and let them know it's okay to be anxious, it's okay to have anxiety, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to be stressed, it gives them permission to share it too. When my kids say to me, I'm really stressed out about something, I got finals going on, like if you could just like lay off for 2 days, just let me focus on my work, like I'm going to respect that and do that for them.
You hit another nail on the head there, Keith, because kids are so perceptive. To your point about you letting them know early on, hey, I'm feeling a little stress, a little anxiety. This is how I may be. Flip side of that is for me, me and my personality and everything. Well, kids will, if they know that I'm not like myself, they'll ask me, Coach, you okay? I think that that's something that's really important for parents and for even young adults to understand that it's okay if you said something. Hey, speak up. A lot of times kids are afraid to speak up, but if you develop a good enough relationship, you can go, hey, Keith, are you okay? You don't seem like yourself today. And then guess what? All of a sudden, your anxiety level is going to drop because guess what? Oh man, they see it. Whew, I don't have to hide it. Now I can let them know. Now you feel better. They feel better. Now your relationship's even gotten better because now there's a level of respect that you didn't even know was there. And they let you know that. And I know for me, it's such a great feeling to know when I go out, I go with a group of kids, they can pick up on what kind of mood I'm in just based on how I interact with them.
Yeah. It's a beautiful, and it builds not just with families, but just with one another. It's how you build community and mutual respect. And again, like permission, right? The whole thing with teens is permission to feel not good all the time. And
Right.
but when they're able to share how they're feeling and give permission to other teens to share, it opens up so much room for empathy and support and community.
Now, as you mentioned community, I think something I wanted to make sure that we shared in this, I guess that you would say initial podcast episode, is that I wanted to share with everybody that Keith and I are also part of nonprofits. And I think this is really important to share because it shows the extent of our compassion and our love for young people and wanting to see them improve. So we both have our businesses, but we also are part of nonprofits. I have a nonprofit, which is JLT Fieldhouse, which is a youth coaching and mentoring organization. And we utilize the game of basketball as a platform for coaching and mentoring the leaders of tomorrow. And I would love for Keith to share with us about his nonprofit.
Sure. So I'm the president of a not-for-profit called the Sofia Valsamos Foundation. And our mission is to embrace each other's differences, find support around challenges, and it's an anti-bullying platform. So it's all we offer social emotional learning. We offer character development workshops. We send mental health wellness kits to schools for teachers to use with the students in the classrooms on strategies, how to de-stress, manage anxiety, and just talk about what's going on. So great non-for-profit. I've been on the board for about 2.5 years now, and I've been involved with them for about 4.
That is amazing. That is great work. And these are just 2 other examples of the depths of our compassion, love, and commitment to the next generation of leaders. And we just want to make sure that you understand that this is not a podcast we just put together just so we can get on here and have something to do, because we both are busy, but we're not too busy to make time for the next generation of leaders. And Keith approached me about this idea, and I didn't blink an eye. I said, I'll make time for an episode, for a podcast like this, because of the importance of it, but not just touching this generation, but also preparing the next generation, and also educating and supporting parents as well. So Keith, I want to thank you for the invitation to do this, and I am really looking forward to this journey with you.
No, so am I. I think it's going to be great. And I think when people see the kind of teens that are going to come on here and speak about it, and some of the guests that we're going to bring on that help support teens, I mean, at the end of the day, our future is really in their hands. They really are the future. We can only avoid it for so long. And if we can get them at an early age and teach them at an early age all these skills of empathy, kindness, resiliency, grit, acceptance, and just all of these important social emotional skills, they can grow together, they can learn together, and they don't have to agree on everything, but they can find ways to support one another, understand each other, and just bring us to a place where it's much more peaceful and less divided, right?
Oh, 100% right. 100% right. And this is an opportunity also for Keith and for myself, for us to share a little bit more in depth about our work with our, once we start having our guests on, it will be proof of the work that we've done, what we've accomplished, but not just by ourselves, but with the young people that we've worked with. I know for a fact that a few of the guests I'm going to be having on that I've worked with are some young people that have truly made me a better coach because of the relationships I've developed with them. And I know that you would attest to the same with the young people that you've worked with, Keith.
For sure. Yeah, I think the greatest thing about what you and I do, there's not a day that I wake up and I don't love what I'm doing. But so much of it, it's not just because I know I get to help teens. I learn so much every day about, like I work with a lot of kids with ADHD, and I do a lot of executive functioning coaching. There's strategies I've learned from I have a ton of strategies. And then one of these kids will be like, "Oh, did you ever try this?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I've never tried. Does it work?" "Oh, it works amazing." And then I'll share that with 2 or 3 other kids I'm working with. And they're like, "That was the best strat." So, we don't have all the answers, right? We can learn so much from them. And that's what I love. When you're really talking to them and we connect with them, and like you said, I think we have those personalities, we might be a little older, but we connect with these kids. They trust us. We're not like, "Oh, these are just 2 old guys," right? We're we may look at it, but they connect with us. And I think because they do, they share with us, and they're excited to share strategies and excited to share ideas. And when we take those strategies and ideas and we share with others, it just validates what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it perpetuates again this whole idea of helping one another, and empathy and compassion and support for one another. And I think when we foster that kind of environment, with our kids and our teenagers, that's how you heal things that's how you heal what's broken.
No, 100%. And when you said the reason I started laughing was when I go to our open gyms on Sundays, and this is 7th through 12th grade boys and girls. And some weeks we'll have an odd number, and they're like, "Hey, coach, are you going to fill in and play?" And I may say yes or no. And I kid you not, Keith, this is what they do. They'll say, "You got your knee sleeves on?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They say, "You got your back brace on?" I say, "Yeah." Because if I don't have any of that, they won't let me play because they're looking out for me because they know that, I'm a 58-year-old guy out here with 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. They know they're going to run me ragged. But there's two things about it. Number one, it shows the compassion they have and appreciation they have for me. And number one, that I would go out there and do it. That's respect that they have for me. Number two, they care about my health. They don't want me getting hurt, make sure I'm fine, because they know I'll get in trouble with my wife because she finds out I played. I'm in trouble because she always tells me, "You didn't play, did you?" But it also goes to the relationship that we built. And you can't, like you said before, nothing brings me more joy than to wake up and to get to work. And I want to share with you an example of, and this is you and I know we're a lot alike. My wife has to come in here, tell me to get off my computer, and come to bed because I'm in here working on courses or I'm reading something or I'm getting ready. I'm trying to be better at what I do because I care. And I know you care that much about the next generation leaders. And I would stay up 24/7 if I could, because there's always something. And I find myself taking more and more notes. And this podcast is going to bring more time for me to improve my craft just like you, but it's one that I'm truly looking forward to. And like I said, this is our first of many, and I can't wait for us to really start getting going with these guests and learn more about how we can be better and getting them better.
Yep, absolutely. That's what it's about, right? Hearing what they have to say and finding ways to amplify that voice in a way that embraces everybody and supports everyone.
Absolutely. Well, we would thank everybody for listening to this initial podcast of Teen Speak, Empowering Today's Youth. And before we go, we are going to share with you how you can contact us. It'll obviously be in our show notes, but I want to share with you. My website is CoachT'sCorner.com, and my email address is CoachT@CoachT'sCorner.com. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and also if you have a topic that you would like for Keith and I to cover, feel free to contact me. And Keith's also going to share his contact information, so feel free to contact either one of us.
Share your non-for-profit too.
Oh, yes. JLT Fieldhouse. It is jltfieldhouse.org. And my email address there is coacht@jltfieldhouse.org. So either email address is fine. And of course, if you are a business owner and you're looking for a nonprofit to contribute to, JLT Fieldhouse is one to consider, as well as Keith, which he's going to about share with you right now.
So my company is Power Shift Coaching, and my website is shiftyourpower.com. It can be reached at Keith@shiftyourpower.com. And my non-for-profit is called the Sofia Balsamos Foundation. This is easy. It's tsvf.org. And again, you can go there. Any money donated goes directly to programming and services. We're all volunteer-based. We don't have payroll. So every single penny we collect goes towards serving the kids that we're trying to serve.
And there is a link to Keith's website on my website. But also I wanted to mention, too, that I just launched my Sea of Success Academy, which is an online academy. And it covers several different soft skill areas that young people aren't getting taught in schools on a regular basis. And it also is inspired by my book, The Ultimate Guide to Success for Preteens and Teens. That, by the way, is available on Amazon, on Kindle version, paperback or hardback. And so feel free to check that out. And also, Keith is also a part of that. So we're collaborating more than just on this podcast. Keith and I are not fly-by-night communicators. We're constantly in communication with each other. And so this is just the first of many opportunities for us to collaborate. And we truly appreciate you taking the time. As I said before, I'm Coach T. I'm here in North Carolina. And over here, I have
Coach Keith from Long Island, New York, if you can't tell by the accent.
Well, shoot, I guess I should start talking like this here. This is Coach T from North Carolina. We really appreciate it, Keith. Thank you, my man. It's always a pleasure to share the stage with you and look forward to this journey together.
Yeah, let's continue to do great things.
All right, everybody, this is Coach T and Coach Key signing off from Teen Speak, empowering today's youth. Until our next episode, take care.
If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Teen Speak, be sure to connect with Keith at shiftyyourpower.com or Antoine at CoachT@CoachT'sCorner.com.